Let me ask you a question. Which platform has 210 million users, 2 million creators, and a CEO who was paid $1.3 million per day last year? There's only one answer. It's OnlyFans. OnlyFans is a platform that's not just taking over the internet, but it seems to have found the master key to the human brain. It's a platform that seems to have its users wrapped around its little finger, like the Pied Piper of the internet, leading its train of horny dudes off to its bank account. But what is the real reason for the success of OnlyFans? Because it can't just be the fact that you can see naked people on that platform. There are plenty of websites where people can see naked people for free. So why is it that OnlyFans is so successful? What is it about the psychology of the platform that makes it so potent in today's world? So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. We're going to talk about the context and the environment that OnlyFans has grown up in, and we're going to be talking about some psychological behavioral science principles that are directly relevant to the success of OnlyFans. So, let's jump into it. So the first thing to talk about when we talk about the success of OnlyFans is the rise of parasocial relationships. So if you don't know what that is, a parasocial relationship is when a viewer feels like they have a relationship with the creator, even though that relationship is only one-sided. After all, as a creator, like myself here on the internet, we talk a lot about ourselves, we share a lot about our lives here on the internet, and you as a viewer, if you're a loyal viewer of someone's content, then you spend a lot of time watching that person and hearing all about their lives. And as a result of that, it's almost like that creator is a friend of yours, but they're not actually your friend because, well, they don't know anything about you. And so these are one-sided parasocial relationships that exist. But the interesting thing about parasocial relationships is that even though they're not, as meaningful as true friendships, they can somewhat alleviate that feeling of loneliness because you feel like, well, you're almost like you're talking with somebody, but you're actually only just listening. And so what's interesting about this is that, well, a lot of people are feeling lonely these days. Loneliness has only increased, especially since COVID. A lot of people felt very isolated, and OnlyFans is really able to monetize people's loneliness essentially because people are able to pay to feel like they have a parasocial relationship with these creators. So the second thing that's facilitated the rise of OnlyFans is the gig economy. So this is the transition we're seeing in the economy from traditional forms of employment to more freelance, independent, gig type work. Now, there are lots of things that are appealing about engaging in gig type work. For example, increased flexibility in terms of your hours, in terms of the type of work that you do. But there's also a lot of pressure for people to engage in gig type work because of just the increased cost of living with each subsequent generation. More and more people are finding it harder to make a decent living just going through the traditional forms of employment that maybe our parents' generation did. And so a lot of people are turning to gig type work in order to either supplement their main income or for it to become their main income entirely. Now, there are lots of different ways that people are engaging in the gig economy, from driving Ubers or from doing food delivery, but more and more people are turning to social media as their preferred form of gig type employment. One, because it's really fun. For example, I make this YouTube channel and that's really fun for me, but it's also a supplemental form of income. And other people are looking towards Instagram or TikTok or other platforms in order to try and monetize themselves, turn themselves into a brand, and therefore supplement their main income. Now, OnlyFans is an especially powerful way to engage in the gig economy because of the way it is so directly monetizable. If you run a YouTube channel like me, the way that I get paid is by YouTube playing ads before or after my videos, or if a brand sponsors me, then I can do an ad read in my video and I earn a little bit of money that way. But the monetization is indirect because you as a viewer get to watch my content for free. Now, I love the fact that YouTube is free and it's part of the beauty of the platform and why I prefer to be a YouTube creator versus an OnlyFans creator. But the fact of the matter is that indirect compensation for your content isn't as monetizable or doesn't have as much earning potential as directly monetizing your content. That's why a lot of YouTubers and other types of creators turn to platforms like Patreon, for example, in order to benefit from this type of direct monetization. But OnlyFans really turns this up to 11 because they make it the whole purpose of its platform that creators on OnlyFans are able to directly monetize their content. People are directly paying to actually view the content in the first place, and that means the earning potential of creators on OnlyFans is significantly higher than on a platform like YouTube. In other words, OnlyFans lets you earn significantly more per viewer, which means you're able to earn a lot more of a decent income from a much smaller audience. And for a lot of creators on OnlyFans, this is the primary reason why they flock to that platform. There are so many cases that we've heard of people turning to OnlyFans as the only way they're able to fund something like their university education, for example. It just simply wouldn't be financially viable without a highly monetizable platform like OnlyFans. So that's why so many creators, especially young women, are turning to OnlyFans in order to fund their actual career pursuits. So of course we can't talk about OnlyFans without talking about sex work. But the interesting thing about OnlyFans and the rise of it is that it's come at a time where there have been significantly changing attitudes towards sex work and sex workers. Historically, of course, sex work was always seen as a low-class activity, reserved for the poorest people in society who really had no other option. But these days there have been changing attitudes towards sex work, especially in Western civilized nations.
You paid her to have sex! No, I paid her to have sex and we're filming it. So technically it's not prostitution, it's a porno.
It's not uncommon these days for people to hold the opinion that sex work is actually a form of body positivity, a way for women to express themselves and feel good about their bodies, but it's also even a form of self-expression. Some people even think that sex work is a type of self-expression. In the same way that I'm able to express myself somewhat through these YouTube videos, people feel like posting videos of yourself naked is another form of self-expression in some way. Now, I will say here that this isn't, of course, a universal opinion. In fact, it's a highly polarizing topic, and if you disagree, then you're perfectly within your rights to do so. But you should know that this is a growing sentiment among people in Western society, and OnlyFans as a platform has really benefited from that change in attitude. But the interesting thing about OnlyFans in this narrative is that it's not only benefited from this change in social norm, but it's actually been a major driver of it. You see, prior to OnlyFans, it was very difficult for sex workers to be able to monetize their bodies in a way that was safe. However, when it comes to OnlyFans, they're only posting videos and photos and live streams, which actually is a lot safer than actually engaging in, real sex in the real world, where there's of course the risk of disease and so on. And so through monetizing sex work in this way, it actually helps to overcome a lot of that stigma around disease and, uncleanliness. And as a result of that, if a creator is able to make a full-time living on OnlyFans, then that is being viewed more and more as a totally legitimate career path. So I did promise you at the start of this video some behavioral science principles. So one principle that I think is especially relevant to OnlyFans is something called the idiosyncratic fit heuristic. So idiosyncratic fit in behavioral science is essentially a fancy word for the allure of exclusivity. And it's a principle that I use with my clients when I was a consultant all the time. And the reason why idiosyncratic fit is so powerful is because it basically means that people will pay to have a feeling of exclusivity. And that's actually a very rewarding emotion for people to have. When it comes to OnlyFans, people are paying creators to have exclusive access to their photos and videos. And I think that's what sets OnlyFans apart from other, porn or naked photo websites. The reason why OnlyFans is so successful is really thanks to this heuristic. It's because people are paying to have this feeling of exclusivity, which is incredibly rewarding. And this isn't a new principle and certainly not unique to OnlyFans. It's the same reason why people who have access to airport lounges, for example, feel really good when they're able to access a lounge because, I have privileged access because I have this particular credit card or something, and so I can have access to this lounge, and that makes you feel really good. Or if we go back even further, think about country clubs in America, right? Country clubs are these kind of membership fee places where you pay this very expensive fee and you're able to then access this country club with all these other posh people with tennis courts and so on and so forth, right? This is another example of the idiosyncratic fit principle at play here. And OnlyFans is really just the digital version of the country club, but for, seeing naked people. But why do the creators on OnlyFans enjoy making content on there so much? Well, one big reason is due to validation and self-worth. You see, as human beings, we find validation from other people incredibly rewarding. It's the same reason why comedians or other performers find applause and laughter from their sets incredibly, almost intoxicating as an experience. And that's because when we receive this kind of social approval from other people, our brain releases an enormous amount of dopamine into our brain. If you don't know, dopamine is that reward hormone in the brain that tells us that what we just did was a good thing and that we should do it again in the future. And in many ways, OnlyFans supercharges the social media version of dopamine. Now, receiving validation on social media is certainly not a new thing. Of course, this is the whole reason for the success of Facebook. The invention of the like button on Facebook was really one of the most powerful inventions of the modern century. And if any of you have ever posted on social media, which I'm sure many of you have, you'll know that receiving likes on your post is an incredibly rewarding experience. But OnlyFans turns this social media form of social validation up to an absolute 10. And the reason for that is because you're not just receiving likes on your content, but you're actually receiving real money, real US dollars. People are paying actual money to see your content. And I can only imagine, obviously I don't make content on OnlyFans, but I can only imagine how intoxicating a feeling that is, that you're like, wow, people are actually willing to pay real US dollars for my content. That must be an incredibly rewarding experience psychologically as well as financially. So I think that's a big reason why creators choose OnlyFans and choose to keep making content on OnlyFans, because of this psychological effect. It must be totally addictive. So that's my breakdown of the success of OnlyFans, from the economics to the sociology to the psychology. But what do you think? Do you agree with me or not? Do you think I missed anything? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.